Miami Condo Mondays is a live podcast on the first workday of the week at 4 p.m. South Florida time. The program features former journalist and current Wall Street consultant Peter Zaleski of the Miami Condo Investing Club and former lender and veteran condo broker Jenny Huertas of CVRRealty.com. Recorded weekly in greater downtown Miami, this 1-hour discussion will provide a refreshing and sometimes controversial perspective on the state of the South Florida condo market from a pair of seasoned real estate professionals who do not always agree. The program won't tell you what to think about the South Florida condo market, but will give you something to think about before buying, selling, taking listings, or financing units. This podcast is not authorized by the Miami real estate industry and will quite possibly annoy many of its figureheads. Welcome to this week's episode of Miami Condo Mondays, broadcast live on the social media accounts of Peter Zaleski and Jenny Huertas.
Happy Monday, Miami. This is Miami Condo Mondays, a real estate podcast about what's going on in the Tri-County area of Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. This week, we're taking a look at Sunny Isles Beach. And if you haven't looked at Sunny Isles Beach in Northeast Miami-Dade County on the Barrier Island, you might be in for some surprises. Surprises are, if you're a buyer, Sunny Isles Beach, that's where you want to be looking. And if you're a seller, you missed your warning. The warning was given to dump and get out. Those of you who didn't, it's kind of tough sledding. So I'm Peter Zaleski, condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. I'm joined here by my partner, my co-host, and broker owner of CVR Realty, Jenny Huertas. Check out her website, cvrrealty.com. Jenny, we're coming into the last few days of August. Quiet, hot, humid, no hurricane warnings yet.
No.
August.
No much rain either.
Not much rain. Yeah, what's going on? Normally it's pissing down rain by now.
El Niño, La Niña. I don't remember which phenomenon it is, but it's something to do with it.
Wow. Interesting. So, so far so good. I mean, if you go back and look and see when some of the early hurricanes were, they were typically, middle part of August, maybe the third week of August. So we're now getting to the end of August. Before you know it, Jenny, it's going to be Labor Day weekend.
When? Next weekend?
No, 2 weekends from now.
Okay. I don't even know where it is.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jen, I want to get into Sunny Isles Beach today. I want to talk about what's going on up there. And if you haven't looked at the numbers lately in Sunny Isles Beach, it's not a good market. We got a deteriorating buyer's market for vintage condos. Overall market is deteriorating. And if you look at the modern units, the ones that all the sell side people and the developer said we're going to be in great demand, that is in a severe buyer's market. Way too much product, not enough transactions going down. And Jenny, just in case you weren't aware, mortgage rates north of 6.75%.
Yeah,
and probably going to 7. And just for a point of reference, February the 27th, 2026, the day before the United States launched an attack against Iran and shut down the Straits of Hormuz, even though it wasn't planned, our 30-year fixed rate mortgage is coming in at 5.99%. How are you going to buy real estate if interest rates are too high? As we all know, when interest rates go up, housing goes down. When rates go down, housing goes up. Jenny, we got a brand new Federal Reserve chairman, a guy called Kevin Warsh, handpicked by President Donald J. Trump, just like Jerome Powell was. But Jerome Powell, on his way out, he wouldn't cut interest rates. Why? Because inflation is running way too hot. So Kevin Warsh is supposed to come in, Jenny. He is supposed to cut interest rates. Why? Because if you cut interest rates, housing goes up. Looks like they're going to be raising interest rates in September. That's what Wall Street is predicting at a time when Sunny Isles Beach is in a deteriorating buyer's market for vintage, which are those condos 30 years old or older, and a severe buyer's market for modern condos up to 29 years old. You ready to get into Sunny Isles Beach, John?
Most definitely. I think cash is king now. That's the thing. Cash is king.
Cash is king, but, it's getting so much more complicated because, before it used to be location. Now I make the argument that it's age of the building. What say you? Is location more important than the age of the building? Because listen, if you buy a condo and it is under greater scrutiny because of what happened back on June 24th, 2021, Surfside condo collapse, nearly 100 people died, $1 billion settlement paid out to families of victims. Florida legislature changes the laws. They're requiring transparency and mandatory inspections. These inspections are leading to hefty special assessments. Building up to 4 stories, call it $25,000 per unit special assessment. If that building is 5 to 14 stories. That's $65,000 special assessment. And 15 stories or more, $100,000 special assessment. You get a year to pay. You don't pay, Jen. Association can foreclose, or association can take out a private loan. They take out a loan, but they're looking at 9, 10, 11, 12% interest. So at the end of the day, the cost of condo living has gone up. Can't be good for a seller.
Yeah, well, it's just difficult because it's also difficult for the buyer. If there is the rates are so high,
Yes.
even when the prices are lower, then it doesn't really make a difference. So cash buyer will take advantage of it. Now, when you ask me what is more important, location or the building, I think before, those days when location was location and that was it, they're gone. Now we need to really, really pay attention to the building. I always say, look at the building first and then the unit, because that's where you are sharing all this cost with other 200 or 500, whatever the size of the building it is. So it's more difficult to do it by yourself now. I think you more than ever need somebody that really study the market and really pay attention to what is happening.
Yep. And that's, Jenny, why you set up the vintage team. You have a team over at CVR Realty, your brokerage. You've been in the business north of 20 years. You were a financier. Before that, you set up a team to specialize in some of these older condos, which can get a little bit more complicated. But Jenny, you know why people want these older condos, these vintage condos? Across the board in South Florida, they are 40% cheaper on the asking price. I got a little hint for you, though. In Sunny Isles Beach, they're about 70% cheaper. 70 cheaper. We're going to get into all those specifics. Jenny, that's why you got the vintage team. What are some other reasons? Why would people want a vintage condo after what happened in Surfside back 5 years ago when all the people died? But now we got the inspections. Now we got the licensed architects, the licensed engineers studying everything, Jen. They go in there, they check it all out every 10 years. It's called the Structural Integrity Reserve Study, or SIRS. Year 30, buildings got to undergo a milestone inspection, which is really roll up the sleeve type of study, figure out what's exactly wrong. Jenny, when they do these studies, the experts figure out what the shelf life is, what is the duration, how long is everything going to last? They give a projection as to how it's going to be. They turn it over to the numbers people within their firm who figure out a dollar amount. They then take the report from the licensed architect, licensed engineer, put together with the numbers of what it's going to cost. They put a bow on that report, Jen. They send it off to the condo board. And as of 2026, condo board has now have to begin funding the necessary work in order to get it done. So that being said, a lot of people are opting for vintage because, 40% cheaper, South Florida wide, 70% cheaper in Sunny Isles Beach. Jenny, what are some other reasons people might want to look at a vintage condo if it's got a signed inspection report and it's got a funding source?
Space in some instances. Some of them are smaller exceptions, like South Beach, Ardeco district, but most of them are bigger. The associations are proven, like they already have experience. They are not changing people every 3 years, like in the beginning of the building. Also the type of construction that already went through all these years without being really, really beautiful, but stronger. So people have the impression, and in some instances it's true, where all those condos seem to be a stronger built. And also parking.
I don't have a car. Yeah. I don't have a car. I haven't had a car since 2013. I could care less about parking. Why is it? What do you get in vintage condo with parking that you don't get in a modern condo with parking?
It's not that you have a car. You're always going to have somebody that have a car. Most people, share the car. Nowadays, a lot of people is ditching one car and I stay with only one car because it just makes sense. But definitely, you want the parking space even if you don't use it, because some people need it and you can rent it out. It's an asset. It's an asset. It's part of the deal when you buy a condo. And you have older communities where you also have parking, like surface parking. Not that they're gonna do a tower anytime soon because they are, outside the downtown or whatever. But you have a space for parking. Valet parking is something that all these new towers have. And
I thought I thought that's a luxury. You get the valet, you drop your keys with the valet, and you're a big shot. Do people not want valet parking? And if not, why not?
Yeah. Oh, well, some people would like to have the valet parking as an option, like have the valet parking to park the car in their space. That is a real luxury, to have your space and somebody park it for you. But in a lot of these brand new famous names condos, they do not have parking. Not all of them, but in the very like Brickell, the heart of downtown, all of them are valet parking. But it was unheard 15 years ago.
Well,
So,
one of the reasons the developers want to build valet parking and push it as a luxury rather than a pain is that it costs about $40,000 per parking space to actually construct it. Typically, you need about 1.5 parking spaces per condo. So, if you have a 300-unit building, what are we looking at? 450 parking spaces at $40,000 a shot. Jenny, that's for people self-parking, but if you were able to tandem them, go bumper to bumper, maybe you put a lift above it, now you can shoehorn in all the parking, but the only way you can pull this off if you got a valet. Here's the problem with valet. If you go ahead and you order your car and by the time you get down there, it's not there, you might have a trouble. If they lose the keys, you might have a problem. If you're on your way down, you forgot something, you got to go back up. Are they going to park it again and you got to bring it out again? They're going to wait for it because we all know how slammed it can be. What if you need a valet when everybody's going out at the same time? It's kind of like leaving the stadium after an Inter-Miami match or leaving after a Miami Dolphins match or game or anything like that. So valet is supposed to be luxury. I don't see it that way. I see it more of a liability personally, but I don't have a car.
No, but it is. It is. I mean, it could be luxury when it's nobody there at Sunday, 8 in the morning. Yeah, but most people that buys those $5 to $10 million condos, they're never in the rush. They can wait forever. They just have a different lifestyle. So for them, it's actually something that they may enjoy. But I personally think that that's one of the reasons why the people will have more power when they resale is that they have a needed parking space.
Yes, they have a bigger parking space. Jen, let me also throw out to you, another reason people like vintage, better locations. For a building to be vintage, at least 30 years old or older, it would have built in 1996 or before. Back in 1996, and I got here in 1993, you got here sometime around the same. It was a different world, Miami. So a building that was built more than 30 years ago, it's got a better location. A lot of the new stuff they're putting up, it's either super expensive, they had to buy out an existing condo, they had to terminate it, which meant they had to pay everybody to go away, and ultimately the cost is more because the land costs are more. Versus a vintage condo can have better locations, especially in Sunny House Beach. You look at some of these locations in Sunny House Beach, and you're just shocked, especially on the west side of the Barrier Island. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous views. You got parking, you got massive units. I mean, one bedroom today, Jenny, is 750 square feet. A two bed's 1,000 square feet. The vintage condos, it's not unheard of to hear 1,200 square feet on a one bed, 2,000 on a two bed. So if you're an end user, vintage makes a heck of a lot more sense, assuming it's safe. But that's where the inspections come in.
Exactly. It could be also a very dangerous game because the price not always reflect a good deal. For example, if you see a condo for $150,000 and suddenly you see that the maintenance fee is $1,300, it doesn't make any sense. So even the price tag is not always the whole story. So you really have to really dig into it. Before, we got it so good as realtors. We were like, go there, oh, beautiful, this inspection, boom, boom. It was so easy. Now you have to know about all this. You have to be aware and make sure that you get all these studies and how much they're paying for, how many the minutes for the last year, the budgets for the last year and the next year. So it's so much work now than it was before. And I think I'm okay with that because you're protecting your buyer and your investment, and the seller is a good seller, would understand what that means when the price, what setting the price, meeting, they can be more flexible.
Yeah. Now, Jenny, we're going to get into the numbers, but let me just give everybody a foreshadowing. So everybody, if you were to go out and take a shot at a vintage condo in a place like Sunny Isles Beach, and we're going to get into some of the details, you're probably looking at about $440,000 a unit, and that's a building up to 30 or a building at least 30 years old. Now, if you go after a modern condo, so that could be 1 year old or it could be 29 years old, you're looking at an average of $3 million. So what does that mean? By going into a vintage unit, you basically, are you sitting down, Jenny? Are you sitting down? It's about 77% less on the asking price for a vintage condo versus a modern condo in Sunny Isles Beach. Jenny, if I buy a vintage condo at Sunny Isles Beach, do I get to go to the same grocery stores?
Yes, you don't have the same beach though.
But do I get access to the same sand? Do I get access to the same sand?
Same sand, yeah, but you have to walk 3 blocks.
Everything
has the price.
Do I get to go to the Pollo Tropical, which is located right across from the luxury, super luxury condos?
Yeah, but the luxury guys are not going to be there.
Can I still get 2 hot dogs at 7-Eleven for $3 if I'm on a vintage condo versus a luxury condo? Modern condo?
Of course you do.
All right.
Of course.
So really what we're talking about, everybody, is if you want a 77% discount over the modern condo, a vintage might make sense. And Jenny, final point, would you rather be in a vintage condo looking at the beautiful modern condos, or would you rather be in a modern condo looking at the vintage condos?
I probably like to be in the luxury one.
So those are the scenarios, everybody. We're going to get started. We're going to share math for you. You're going to share line charts, numbers. At the end of this podcast, you're going to know everything you need to know about Sunny Isles Beach. We're also going to show you how to go into a market when people don't know if you're catching a falling knife. We don't know if it's going up, it's going down. We don't know which way the midterms are going. We don't know which way the White House is going. We don't know in terms of impeachment. We don't know which way Congress is going. We got a lot of things up in the air. So maybe people are sitting on the sidelines, Jenny, just like we predicted coming into the summer buying season, which runs from May through October. Let me give everybody a reminder. Coming into the summer, we said the World Cup was going to be a bust. We didn't think people were going to be buying condos. Why? Affordability, mortgage rates, as well as the fact that many of the visitors who came here, they were interested in the World Cup, the football, what was going on the pitch. They didn't care about looking at a condo. Sell-side agents would have had you believe, Jenny, as developers as well, that the trees were going to go to the moon. And because of the World Cup, 450,000 tickets were sold over 6 weeks, 7 matches, and we were going to sell at all these condos. You know what happened? Pending sales went down, Jenny. They went down.
Yeah, because it's not a normal times for the World Cup. It was a normal time with the economy and, no wars, whatever it was. It is. We have so many things coming from all different directions that is making it more difficult. And this is it's bad for the industry because, we want to help these buyers to acquire something, but then the sellers are trying to hold strong in depending on the unit. Basically if there is no motivation, it's not gonna sell.
Yeah, but
That's the bottom line.
But the reason some of these sellers are holding out is that they bought in 2021, 2022, 2023. We had a pandemic going on, everybody. A lot of the big bad blue states, they announced that you have to wear a mask. There was a mask mandate. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis made the shrewd move to say no mask necessary in Florida, so everybody came. Jenny, companies said you could work from home. So what happened? People working on Wall Street, people working in Silicon Valley, they all came to South Florida. They bid up pricing. The winning bidder got to overpay for a condo. Miami Beach, just as a cherry on top, they said you were permitted to twerk on a police car on Ocean Drive. And Jenny, they flooded into the market in 2021, 2022, 2023. And you know what's happening now? Wall Street called the employees back. Silicon Valley said, get off the couch, get your tail back in Northern California, start working on all this stuff. A lot of these landlords, Jen, they're trying to rent it, but you know what? They are upside down. And the ones who do get a tenant, they're subsidizing somebody to live in their luxury condo, where they go and they work in Silicon Valley or they work on Wall Street. Am I getting anything wrong there?
No. Actually, adding to that is like the people who was able to secure a property before that fake boom, I'm going to call it, happen. They are not, even if they would like to resell the unit and go in somewhere else, they can't, because you're not going to change a 3% mortgage into a 7% mortgage, even if you want to sell. basically people who selling today is selling because they have a reason to sell. If
And
they don't, it could be anything. It could be changing your life. It could be, it could be a job that you take you somewhere else. Whatever the case might be, if they're not motivated, they're just going to pull it up the market. And that's what I'm noticing lately.
well, and that's the thing, because the people on the market, you know what's happened to them? They might have bought in 21, 22, 23, overpaid, and now they're getting lowballed, lowball, which is what we've been telling buyers to do, and they're getting frustrated, so they're pulling their condos off the market. Jenny, many of them are thinking about coming back on the market in November when the winter buying season goes, which goes from November through April. That's the time when people come to town for an event. They come here for vacation. They come here for a cruise. They get the bug. They fall in love with it. They just start kicking the tires, take a look, take a shot. Many of those deals end up closing this time, the summer buying season. So, if you're going to try to sell in November, Jenny, I got some bad news for you. We got the midterm elections beginning of November. And then on top of that, the condo associations, that's when they pass their budgets. The new budgets kick into place in 2027. And guess what? I would bet that maintenance fees are only going up. Everything else is going up. Why not maintenance fees? And if that's...
I'm not sure. I'm not sure they're going to go up, but what I'm telling you is going to be more reserves. They already have the 5%, more reserves are necessary.
15%.
So that alone.
15% is what Fannie Mae is claiming is necessary in order for a mortgage to fit within the standard. Remember, everybody, Fannie Mae is the one that buys all the mortgages on the secondary market. So when a bank goes ahead and gives you a loan, what they're going to do is they're going to put some junk fees on it. They're going to put it in their pocket. Then they're going to take the loan. They're going to sell it to Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae will give them cash for it. Then they can go out and lend again. Fannie Mae's now saying, if you want us to buy your mortgage in 2027, we need 15% of the maintenance fees coming into reserves in 2027. Jenny, another thing Fannie Mae did as of this month, August the 3rd of 2026, they eliminated something called the limited review of a loan application. And what is that, everybody? Well, a limited review was like driving on 995 in the Lexus lanes on a Tuesday afternoon at 4:30 when the I-95 is packed, when you go from Greater Downtown Miami to Broward County. Well, now with the elimination of limited review, you got to go in the regular traffic lanes, and then it's bumper to bumper. So that means more people are going to get rejected. It's going to take longer to process. And guess what? Mortgage brokers are going to bang you an extra amount of money because all the necessary lifting they have to do where they didn't have to do it before.
Yeah, but if the prices go low enough, then you deal with all of that. But the prices need to be corrected. And that's where we're going. I mean, more and more, especially on the low price. People is willing to let it go for a little bit just to get rid of it. So because the maintenance fees are so high, like in any one bedroom is around $900 across the board. So imagine that. So yeah, that would be that translates into opportunities for many, especially cash buyers or people that really don't want to pay that $5,000 rent and they're willing to move to walk to the beach 5 or 6 blocks in Sunny Isles or in any given area that is not prime but is very close. So that's what this market has. That is the good thing, is always alternatives for buyers on the low end. Now, if we talk about high end, that's another complete story, but that's probably another, we're going to talk about it when we see the numbers.
Well, and again, I gave you some foreshadowing. It is a severe buyer's market for modern condos, those condos that are, up to 29 years old. The condos that everybody supposedly was going to want, Jenny, the ones that all the sell side agents told us should trade for top dollar, because the vintage condos, they had the bad, what do you want to call it, situation because of Surfside. It's the opposite. People are bypassing the modern condos. Modern condos are like, too expensive. Give me one of these older condos that's vintage, that's got a signed off, just like a pre-owned car, a certified pre-owned car. People are buying used cars. They're able to get it, save money rather than driving it new right off the lot. So there is a segment for that, and that really seems to be the part that's most popular right now throughout South Florida, but especially in Sunny Isles Beach.
Yeah, because Sunny Isles Beach is unique in that sense because the modern condos that are on the sand. Vintage condos have always been on the west side because we have only motels there, all these, you know, camels, motels, the camels are still there. But, you know, the market is different because in 1996 is that when they built Pinnacle, I think it was. I was the first one that has, it looks like a AT&T, you know, signal. And they were the first one who did the flow-through units, and everybody else came later on in the 2000s to build that. So they don't have many modern condos that are on the beach side. So yes, they are on the west side, but not on the sand. So that's probably why the difference in the price from vintage to modern is from, you know, $400,000 to $3 million. Come on, it's a huge difference.
Nice. Okay, let's give everybody a quick map view of Sunny Isles Beach, just so you all got a sense of what we're talking about. And by the way, you're watching this live. As a result, you're going to see all this for free. Once the podcast is over, we're going to go ahead and add it for sound, for template. We're then going to make it available on demand. However, you got to be a member of the Miami Condo Investing Club in order to gain access. Remember, everybody, going live every weekday at 4 o'clock. Always talking condos. Mondays is Miami Condo Mondays with Jenny Huertas of CVR Realty. Check out our website, cvrrealty.com. Jenny, we'll start off with a map. Then I'm going to give you a real quick overview about the history of Sunny Isles Beach, what I find fascinating.